Today's show is brought to you by JobScan. JobScan is a site where, frankly, they take some of the issues with the black hole, the applicant tracking system, and really help you fix your resume so that it's able to get through the system. Now, the way it was started out is there was a job hunter named James who was running into problems getting his resume through the applicant tracking systems because he found that they were parsing, ranking, and filtering resumes with algorithms. So what he did was develop a system that helps you figure out how your resume matches up against specific jobs and makes recommendations for how to tweak it to make it get through the systems. Not 100% perfect, but much, much better than what most people get. So use the link in the show notes. You will get better results with your resume when you submit it through the ATS. Now, we'll be back in just one moment. This is No BS Job Search Advice Radio, episode 2132. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome. This is part 2 of my interview with Jennifer Turlick, who wrote a terrific book, How to Figure Out What to Do with Your Life. Part 1 was yesterday. This is part 2. We build on yesterday. You can listen to this one and circle back to the other one if you didn't have a chance to listen to that, or back up one and then listen to this one. Either way works because it's completely different information. And hope you find it helpful. The information is good for students, very experienced people, anyone who's feeling a degree of uncertainty with what to do. There are techniques that she offers that are terrific. And we'll be back in just one moment. Top Resume is a solid service to get you a better resume. Reasonably priced. It's not a premium service. It's for people like you and I who can afford a certain amount of money and also need a great result. And even better, they have a plan through a firm that allows you to stretch your payments for service over the course of the year to something like 20 some odd dollars or 30 some odd dollars per month so that you don't have to write a large check, which right now, if you're not working, is really important to you. So use the link in the show notes. It will help you get a resume and, if you want, a LinkedIn profile done for you very inexpensively. So we move on to other ways that people can promote themselves. And you use writing as an example for doing that. Were you writing about your company? I heard you say strategy in one case you wrote about. I don't know if it was strategy for your business or the strategy behind finding work. I'm just looking for more about what you did.
Yeah, sure. I've written for various publications about various different topics. Like I've written about my company for a publication called Make Magazine, which runs Maker Faire as well. It's a really big, sort of central organization in the maker movement. So wrote about maker kids in there. And for Strategy Magazine, actually that one, they were just looking for future transforming ideas. I think they may have reached out to me. And I have often thought it would be really cool to have a smart closet that, you just put your clothes in and then it washes them according to RFID tags and it organizes them, and that's all. You just put your clothes there and it does the rest. So I wrote about that for them. So it's just, any topic. I think it can be helpful to write for about any topic to get your name out there. But it's especially helpful to write about topics related to your career or that are about a career that you want to move into more so. And yeah, it can be writing or it could be something else. Like if you're a designer, there's cool sites like Behance and Dribble where you can post your designs, and that's like a discovery place where people can find designers. If you're a coder or a software engineer, maybe adding some open source code to GitHub, people might find you on there. all sorts of different ways that you can get your work out there and be found because of it.
Fabulous. And the one thing I noticed as a location that you didn't mention was LinkedIn.
Oh, LinkedIn's really good too. You can showcase your work on there too, for sure.
Just was curious because, we've spoken about Forbes and other places, but it wasn't LinkedIn. I know people can blog there, and the new soon to be released creator version of LinkedIn, it's really designed for self-promotion, for branding. You're not connecting with people anymore, you're following them in order to create the brand of you on the LinkedIn platform. Interesting. So, designing a career. How does someone go about designing a career? Now, I think in terms of starting off by trying to narrow down a broad range of choices. In your case, you spoke about 6 earlier, 6 things that you were interested in doing, and then having conversations. And now that you have it narrowed down to a group, even smaller group, how does someone wind up doing the design at that stage to start moving in that direction?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the whole concept behind what I'm recommending is, instead of blindly doing what I call spray and pray and just applying to a bunch of jobs and seeing who will take you, this is a much more targeted approach to find something that is a really good fit for you at the intersection of what you like to do, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what helps the world. And it's like, instead of going to law school and spending like 5 years to become a lawyer without ever having stepped foot in a lawyer's office, and then getting to the end of it and starting your first day and realizing, oh no, I don't like it.
What did I do?
Yeah, then figuring out how you can prototype a potential career in a small way before you invest a lot of time and money into it. So for example, spending a day at a lawyer's office, or shadowing them for a week, or doing an internship there. So how do you go from a huge range of options to, say, your top 3? Well, in any good design thinking process, they start with getting to know the user. And the user in this case of the career is you. So it's really good to get to know yourself more. And you might be thinking, oh, I already know myself. I live with myself every day. But do you know what your purpose is, your mission, your core values, how you want the world to be different when you pass away, what your key strengths are? All these things can be figured out in the sort of know yourself phase of the process through things like meditation, digital detoxes, 360-degree reviews, and career tests. And then once you know yourself better, you can set out your key criteria for what you're looking for in a career. Things like, distance from your home, whether the atmosphere will be casual or formal, whether it'll be a big team or a small team, how good you are at it, how much you like it. And then from there, you can brainstorm all different options that you might like to think about for your career. And you might have 6, like I did, or maybe 20. And then once you know how many options or the different options that you're considering, you can see if there's any more you want to brainstorm and add to the list, or if there's any you want to narrow down based on the criteria that you set out. And once you have a list of options you're contemplating, then you can identify ways to test them out in small ways in what I call minimum viable commitments, which is the smallest way to experience whether or not you might like a role. And there's a spectrum of low effort and low commitment, minimum viable commitments, or ones that require higher investment of time. So on the low end, things like reading a magazine article or an article online, maybe doing some informational interviews. Then as you get higher up the spectrum, doing shadowing, doing internships. And so when you have a lot of options you're considering, if you don't have the time to say shadow at all of them, you could start off by reading articles about them or doing something small commitment to see if that helps you learn information that might help narrow down the options you're considering. And then do another set of research, for example, informational interviews, and see if that narrows down the options as you grade them against the criteria you'd set out. And then as you narrow down your options, you can get into more in-depth experiences like shadowing, and that'll help you narrow down to your top 3 options. And then once you're there, it's all about making yourself the best candidate for those positions or those roles by figuring out what you need to do to position yourself to be selected for them. And you'll notice that in all of this, I didn't talk that much about like what your career had been in the past, because these days, since you can learn so much online, there's certainly some professions where you do need a designation, like to be a doctor, a lawyer, although in some areas you actually don't need to have gone to law school to be a lawyer, fun fact. But there's lots of other professions where you don't need to have a designation or studied it for 4 years to succeed at it. I have a friend who went from being an actress to taking a 9-week coding boot camp and becoming a software engineer. I have another friend who studied business and sales in undergrad and now is a journalist writing for the New York Times, having never taken a journalism class in his life. And so it's all about, once you know what you want to do, making yourself the best candidate for it through taking courses, doing projects, creating a portfolio, and being able to demonstrate to potential employers your value, or if you're starting your own business, figuring out how to do that.
And what I'm also hearing is that it's work. And I want to make sure everyone hears this. This is not about sending a resume for an internship or an entry-level position and saying, hi, I'd like to change careers and have you train the heck out of me. And, I'm going to sit back and let you tell me what I need to do. I'm hearing that there's effort that needs to be put in.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I do hiring myself, as do a number of my friends, and there's a huge difference between just receiving some stock resume, which may even be addressed to the wrong company, and just receiving that resume alone versus someone who's taken a very targeted approach, and they send you not just a resume, but a cover letter. Maybe they even send you a video application. Perhaps they've even included a project that might be beneficial to your company. Including things like that makes you a way better candidate and immediately moves you to the top of the pile of all the different applicants for many companies. And yeah, that takes work, and that takes figuring it out on your own to a certain extent.
And I hope people are hearing that loud and clear, because so often folks have gotten bad habits. I'm wondering about the notion of sending a few ideas to a firm, as is recommended by one expert. Every once in a while, ideas come to mind, and he gives them away freely. Saying, I don't know if this would be helpful to you, but I thought this might be a useful idea for you to explore, and using that as the gateway to the conversation. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's certainly one thing you can do. Of course, assuming that the language that you write it in is meant to be helpful rather than critical. It's especially helpful if you can include something concrete, like if you're a designer, like a mock-up of something, or, if you're an engineer and can quickly whip up a piece of code, just sending along something that might be of value to them, or doing a smaller project like sending an article you thought they might like. All of these things can be super helpful. I had someone reach out to me and offer to build me a website. She said, I noticed your personal website. I have some ideas for how I could make it look better. Here's some websites that I made in the past. And of course, we ended up developing, she had really great websites that she'd made. And of course, we ended up developing an ongoing relationship and mentoring relationship, and had subsequent projects for her too. So it's a really great way to get your foot in the door, is to be able to offer something of value.
There's an old phrase that tends to be said to us when we're younger. And I know we're generationally different, but I also think it would be passed on in subsequent generations to mine. It's the notion of give more, get more. And I'll tack on the part about without expectations. So often people think there's supposed to be a quid pro quo when they give, as opposed to be generous, give your ideas away, be friendly to people, offer of yourself. And the likelihood is that people will appreciate you, especially if you're not asking for something in return right away. It's about being generous.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the phrase, create more value than you capture, offer more value than you capture.
Beautiful. We have so much that we can cover, but I want to make sure within the time that we have left, what haven't I asked you about that you think might be relevant, that might entice people to visit Amazon or wherever you prefer selling it from to order the book?
Let's see. There's also a special chapter for students in there, because being a student is such a special time, and it affords you all sorts of permissions that you may not have later on in life, like being able to reach out to companies under the umbrella of a student project, or having so much freedom to experiment with different projects and work with different classmates. So there's a lot in the book for students. I know graduation's coming up soon. So for those that are thinking, oh, what am I going to do afterwards? It has some good tips in there for them. And same with if there's any parents of soon-to-be graduates, of people who are trying to figure out what to do next with their career.
And I'll have a link to the book on Amazon in the notes for the show, both video and podcast iterations. Jennifer, thank you for making time today. How can people find out more about you? Like I said, the book, which is How to Figure Out What to Do with Your Life next, is I'll have a link in the notes for it. But connecting with you, how can people do that?
Oh yeah, they can go to my website, jenniferturlick.com, or follow me on social media at Jennifer Turlick. That's TURLIUK. And yeah, you can check out the book on Amazon, and hope everyone likes it.
I'm sure they will. It is terrific. So that's today's show. I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, here are a few things I can do to help you with your job search beyond simply being your coach. First of all, I've got a new book out called The Right Answers to Tough Interview Questions. It is like a cookbook with answers to tons of interview questions that you're going to be asked on interviews. And if you pair it up with my other new book, The Ultimate Job Interview Framework, they are a terrific pair of books to help you with interviewing. In addition, you probably have noticed my show notes are pretty thorough with products and services that can help you with your search. And connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. Lastly, my website has a ton of great information. That's thebiggamehunter.us. Now, if you're not ready to go there and go through the blog, put the address in your phone, thebiggamehunter.us, Jeff Altman. So this way, when you're ready to go, you have a way of getting back to my website. Hope you have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great! Be great!